first one was pretty funny in the way you guys edited it. I thought you did a good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 5. Here's this 5 of the PolyMark podcast. I'm here with the brothers, Matt and Andrew. We are going to be discussing a few of our PolyMark bets today. First, we're going to start.
You always introduce us, but you don't introduce yourself. You have to say, I'm Joel.
I'm Joel. I guess I should always lay that out as well. We're going to be talking a little bit about a few different bets. First, we'll do a little bit of an update on some of our bets from last week. We wanted to talk a little bit about the recession. Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we had talked earlier about Andrew had a bet on recession in Q3 or recession anytime.
It was recession for 2025, and then I sold that one and I bought into negative GDP for Q3.
Right. And then we've had these job numbers come out recently that have been revised both, in August in terms of the job numbers and in some of the job numbers even going back to Biden. I mean, it seems crazy to me that they're revising that far back and that these jobs are kind of not there, essentially fraudulent.
Yeah, I think essentially what we're saying is, I think there's kind of two things. We could speculate that maybe the economy under Trump this year is not going as well as he has maybe alleged, or you assume maybe would happen with some of these announcements of major investment, which could lead to negative growth in either Q3 or Q4. I think are maybe interesting bets, even though I haven't pulled the trigger on them yet. And then if you're looking at the jobs data coming back all the way to Biden being significantly worse than we thought it was, maybe it starts looking good, Andrew, at your new bet, which you said was the Fed cutting 50 bips here in September. And I kind of like that one as well.
I mean, I've thought, again, based on my small experience at my job, talking to decision makers in one-man companies and 200-man companies who are telling me that their clients aren't pulling the trigger, aren't signing on the dotted line because of uncertainty as to where their material costs are going to be 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, whenever these projects might get going. And then you extrapolate that out into business owners, not just in America, but obviously Canada, North America, Europe, worldwide. People are going, something that used to be fixed, that used to be certain, is not certain anymore. And because of that, people are just going to be sitting on their hands and saying, I'm just going to wait, see where this goes, and maybe not pull a trigger like I would have done if this entire tariff situation was not going on. And I think that is got to be reflected in the economy obviously on the micro level. In my experience, it's got to be on the macro level all across North America.
So the idea is then that things are slowing down. Powell sees that and goes for a 50 pip instead. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, because you only talk to Canadian companies, right, Andrew? You don't talk to American clientele.
No.
Yeah. No, I it's just like I've said earlier, if there was a market for recession or lowering of the rates in Canada or whatever I could to say Canada's in the shitter, I would pound it. But I couldn't see anything on there. And I just wonder, like, I'm under the impression that Canada's in a uniquely much worse situation than America, and I'm just not sure how true that is, to be honest.
Yeah, I was saying, I think it's obvious that Canada is in a recession. Maybe not officially, but it'll be official anytime now. And you're right, Matt. Like the second that the Fed in the States starts cutting rate, the Bank of Canada will be like, "Woo, there's our permission structure to really cut rates and juice the real estate market and hopefully get a little investment dollars flowing because they want our rate to be lower than the American rate, so it'll attract some dollars." But I don't think that America in any way will be unexposed to the issues that Trump has created with the tariff situation, because just like they have materials that are coming from different countries, different supply chains, Canada, Mexico, if Trump is just throwing these random numbers out there and saying, yeah, as of whatever date, the tariff is going to be 30%. And I'm thinking of, whatever, building a building or, opening another line on my factory or ordering materials for anything, really, it can make the difference between will I or won't I. Why would I sign on the dotted line now if I don't know what it's going to cost 3 months from now, 6 months from now?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about another update here. Thanks for touching on that there, guys. I wanted to touch on another bet that we've got going on from last week, which is Venezuela. Pretty interesting thing. I got very excited when I mean, I shouldn't say I got excited when I saw the bomb. That's going to sound fucked up. But yeah, I mean, the boat ended up getting struck. There was the anti-cartel bet as well as the Venezuela engagement bet that Andrew had. And it seemed like that was about to happen. I mean, we've got the peace indicators flaring again, but I don't think that has anything to do with Venezuela at this point.
Yeah, I should probably explain what you mean by peace indicators for those who don't spend a lot of time monitoring the situation.
The gay nightclub situation monitor as well.
Yeah. So my favorite new Twitter account to follow since I started, messing around on PolyMarket is an account called Pentagon Pizza Report. And basically the way it works is it looks on the Google trends of whether or not the pizza places closest to the Pentagon are busier than usual or less busy than usual. The idea being that if the pizza places closest to the Pentagon are super busy, it's because the Pentagon is ordering pizzas for all their employees because they're having a late night. And as it is, tonight is one of those nights. After our World War III talk, was it last episode? Tonight, what is it, Tuesday the 9th? Russia launched some suicide drones into Poland, and F-35s are actively taking them out over eastern Poland as we speak. So the Pentagon Pizza Report is showing that things are really busy around there right now. And the same is true for, when they took out those Venezuelan supposedly drug boat. I mean, didn't look like a pleasure cruise, but
they were just
who knows?
Local fishermen, guys. They were just out for a pleasure cruise, eel-infested waters.
But, and I mean, obviously the libertarian in me says, hey, it's really bad to just blow up people in international waters without a trial or, any evidence that we've seen that they definitely were drug dealers. But yeah, it did make me feel like I might win my bet there for a sec. But then, you look at the fine print and it's like, oh, it has to be on land.
Well, I was
international waters
interested.
doesn't count.
I was interested that we didn't even see like a spike necessarily in the odds, right? Like I thought, like, oh, somebody sees the boat getting taken out, and you'd see a big spike.
What's your bet at? Would you buy it again? Your bet again, or what are you at right now?
Yeah, so we actually did see a spike over the week. I bought my shares at 20, and they spiked all the way up to 36. And I actually, I'm a little proud to say I sold at the top of the market some of my shares at 36 or 37, and now it's down to like 29. So I mean, I'm still up almost 50% on my bet, which is great. And I mean, I don't hope that America goes to war with Venezuela. I mean, we have no control over what happens. This is up to Trump
Yeah.
and Maduro. But
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for
you know,
reminding us that our bets don't
yeah,
control
well,
world outcomes. People might not be sure. People might think, hey, these guys are actually controlling this shit. These guys are causing this stuff to happen.
I mean, I feel like there will be people out there that would say, "Oh, you're hoping for war." I'm like, no, I'm just trying to call it as I see it. And Trump and Hegseth both said this week, this is just the beginning, more's to come, which is why I think the odds spiked the way they did. And now people are wondering maybe Trump's going to chicken out after all and won't actually violate, the sovereignty of Venezuela by sending some tomahawks in there. Yeah, the odds are down now, but they're still up since I bought in, and I still think it's going to happen, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good about the no ceasefire bets. Just broadly speaking, it seems like none of these conflicts are taking an easy way to a resolution here.
Yeah, let's talk about speaking of that, which has to do with this whole, Poland. I also put some money down on NATO EU troops fighting in Ukraine 2025. Got in super low, around 6 cents. So, big potential payoff if it hits. And yeah, it's kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, which is I thought if there was going to be a ceasefire, it had to happen between Russia and Ukraine, I'm speaking, had to, happen shortly after all of these meetings, both with Putin and with every single EU leader in the White House. I mean, you had a chance to hash out everything, figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, then it's probably only one way to go to escalate. And that there's a decent chance that means that France or whoever says, okay, we're sending some troops in to help fight. And that's, obviously a clear escalation. So I kind of like, I'm going to keep, obviously it doesn't look great, but I'm going to keep my ceasefire bet for 2025 from 25 down to 15. But now I got NATO and EU fighting in Ukraine at 6 cents. So yeah, if it doesn't, if it does,
Bit of a hedge.
it just makes sense to me that one of those things, it's better than a 30% chance that one of those two things happen, is the way I look at it. Go ahead.
So what I like about that bet, and I took the same one. I like yes bets that are long shots that are pretty easy to be yes. And just like the Venezuela bet that I made last week, where it's like all it takes is one tomahawk and this resolves as a yes. Well, all it takes is, one Polish Saab, whatever plane they have, to, fly into Ukraine and be like, yeah, well, these drones were crossing the border, so I took one down in Ukraine rather than let it cross into Poland. And my understanding is that would resolve to yes. Same thing with like, oh, we just moved the Patriot batteries into Western Ukraine instead of Eastern Poland to help with air defense. I mean, that would qualify as a yes. It doesn't take much to have some officially designated soldiers in Ukraine, not on the front lines, not, shooting Russians, but just doing, I think, anything above training.
I think you're wrong, Andrew.
And intelligence.
I think you're wrong. I'll just read it.
Tell me when.
I'll just read it here. It says, for military personnel to qualify toward a yes resolution, they must be officially acknowledged as active military by the NATO or EU entity or member state they are affiliated with, and be publicly acknowledged by NATO or EU affiliated entity to have entered Ukraine for combat-related military purposes directly pertaining to ongoing conflict. So it can't just be what you said. Basically, they have to announce
which part
that it's just some Polish guy, crossed over and took out some guys, because that would never be officially acknowledged, right? They would never officially say, oh yeah, that's what happened, we're starting the war. So something like that could happen. I think for this bet to settle, it essentially has to be someone saying, yes, we're sending troops. Yes, we're entering a new stage, or, basically upping the conflict level. I don't think it resolves the way you characterized.
Well, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to say that it was an accidental crossing or like a heat of the moment crossing. But if Russia keeps sending suicide drones into Poland, eventually they are going to say, "Well, yeah, we're going to take these down in the air over Ukraine before they get to Poland."
Right, but for that to be,
And then at that point, they will acknowledge it and say, "Hey, we will be now that Russia is bombing us." I mean, I already seen tweets today saying like, "Hey, they're having Article 5 discussions." This is
no, I'm not. I don't disagree. I think which is like that is the different characterization. Basically, they have to publicly acknowledge, hey, this is a change in dynamic. You know what I mean? We are now actively
policy.
active policy taking out or sending troops or sending whatever into Ukraine, which is, I think there's a good chance stuff like that does happen on the borders.
Which is something Macron's been
trying to
been talking about.
Which is why I think it's, like I said, mentioned France as the possibility of someone that could send troops, etc. But I'm just saying, especially some of these like covert stuff that's probably happening along the border, I don't think anyone is trying to acknowledge or trying to up these antes. It would be a formal plan, essentially. You know what I mean? Someone saying, "Oh, France or whoever saying, no, we are doing this, UK, whoever." That's my guess. I'm not sure, but that makes
no. I think you're right.
Yeah. That being said, 6 cents. That doesn't have to happen. But I mean, we're not saying it's going to happen. We're saying there's a slim chance, and we think it's higher than 6. That's why I made the bet.
Yep.
Well, let's move on to our other bet here that we wanted to discuss, which is the New York mayoral race. Even though none of us live or care much about being here in New York, but I think we're mostly taking the Cuomo upside on this, whether or not there's going to be an upset over Mamdani. Did we all come down on that side of things? Is that basically where you guys are at as well?
So, me and Matt already took an Adams bet, like right after Mamdani won the Democratic primary, thinking the value of being an incumbent was going to get Adams over the line, and that clearly has not been the case. He said he was not going to drop out this week after speculation that he would, but I think this bet requires him to drop out if it has any chance of winning. And moreover, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, Mr. Red Beret, the Guardian Angels, I mean, I think he has to drop out too, and there's been talk that pressure from both sides of the aisle, with a lot of money behind it, is going to be, brought to bear on this race to get both Adams and Sliwa, hopefully, because I think we all, whether or not we think it's going to happen, I don't think anyone wants Mamdani on this podcast to win. I think the man is, at best, a dedicated, true believer socialist. At worst, the kind of sociopath politician who's willing to say anything, do anything in the moment to get people to vote for him, and is willing to switch on a dime, as he's already shown that he's willing to do this week, already disavowing some of the tweets that he made as a city councilor from like 4 or 5 years ago, being like, "Oh, that's the old Mamdani. That's that was the old me." Like, I think, yeah, obviously, in Cuomo, for Cuomo to have any chance, Adams got to drop out, and maybe Sliwa, but the head-to-head numbers that came out this week show Cuomo and Mamdani are basically neck and neck. So if the needle can be threaded to get rid of Adams, at the very least, I think Cuomo is certainly at a better odds to win at the 16% that I bought in, than the numbers show.
Well, I think, yeah, the corporate interests are going to be against Mamdani, right? Which is for Cuomo, hopefully, if they think he's the best shot there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well,
Matt?
I think Cuomo's obviously what you would call the establishment's pick. You know what I mean? As far as who they would like to see in New York City. I weirdly think it would actually be kind of good if Mandami won and actually tried to run these, stores, grocery stores, and all this. Like, you know what I mean? Because the thing is, I do believe it's good to have essentially experimentation. Like, that's what I believe in. It should be decentralized, and people should be able to move with their feet. And hopefully, if everyone sees that this is a disaster for New York City, and everyone does move with their feet, especially the largest tax base payers, everyone's moving to Miami or whatever, all the finance guys. Maybe it's good. Maybe it stops people from voting them for them nationally or in larger regions. But yeah, the bet, I did the bet as well. I think Cuomo, sorry. Yeah, establishment is obviously behind him. They can't even get a lot of the mainstream Democratic candidates to even, back Mondami, even though he won the New York ticket. Like, that's pretty unprecedented, I believe. But yeah, I think they'll probably offer something extra special to Adams, to help him step aside. And if that's the case, then maybe he wins. But I really, people don't like him. I don't think people really don't like how he, finished off his governorship and all this other stuff. So who knows? I don't think it's a great odds. I did do that, and I did Adams to drop because I just assumed someone would offer him a big enough bag, and I got that like 50-50. But yeah, I don't love the bet. I think there's a decent chance Mandami wins, but I made it.
Yeah, we're here for the big upsides.
Yeah, no, you're betting the upside. Again, it seems if you believe, if you're conspiratorial like I occasionally am, and you believe that the powers that be end up getting what they want most of the time, then I think it's worth the shot that Cuomo ends up being the guy.
So if the powers that be, Matt, can't pull off even taking out Mamdani, does that change your calculus on any of your other conspiratorial views?
Means JFK wasn't killed by the CIA.
Building 7 was a fire.
I mean, I believe democracy still works largely. So if that's the whole thing, right? It's like they really didn't think this was going to happen. They thought they put Cuomo on because they're like, oh, this is the guy, he's going to get through. You know what I mean? And people were like, screw you, don't like it, and they ended up going for this guy.
You know what's interesting is I think the longest, or at least one of the longest lasting impacts that our parents, the boomers, had on at least the American political system, I'm sure it was the same in Canada, is just the concept of an open primary, which they didn't have before, late 60s, early 70s in most states. Before that, it was, the party bosses all got into a smoke-filled room, and they came out of there and decided who the candidate was. It wasn't open to voters who was going to be the nominee. And the boomers, after, after RFK Sr. got killed, there's a big push for, no, we get to decide who the candidate is going to be as the voters.
So RFK wasn't part of a open thing, like when he was picked. Like I don't know the exact story, to be honest. I know he was in California, you know what I mean, and he was like halfway through the campaign.
They were running the primaries for sure. But my point is the system that has emerged from the 60s and the 70s, where anybody can become the candidate, which we discovered in 2016 when both Trump won and Bernie Sanders almost won.
Yeah,
against the will
turns out not anybody can win because they worked pretty hard to stop him.
No, but they had to pull out all the stops to stop him.
I know, but that's
right?
kind of the point. It's not actually open. It's not actually open. Bernie legitimately had more support than Hillary in the Democratic, and they just didn't let it happen. They literally had to cheat.
They shut him out.
Cheat, and
in 2016 and 2020.
Yeah.
Right? Because you remember after all the candidates dropped out.
Well, they really wanted someone
Buttigieg
young.
and-
They really wanted someone young and energetic. They wanted Kamala or Buttigieg and like this, and they're like, oh shit, we gotta go back with fucking Biden. This guy's all, and they're like, that was it. That's all they had. And then they're like, all right, well, start him in the South, and we'll just do it. And then boom, boom, boom.
Right, my point is that used to be the norm. That used to be the only thing that happened.
I mean,
Mamdani would never have won 50 years ago, but now it's anybody who's got enough internet cred, who's got enough social media presence, if people know who you are, you can win. And it turns out like, hey, getting the Republican nomination, like I truly believe that Trump won accidentally. Like he didn't start wanting to be president as his goal was to be actually president. I think it was a way to leverage a better deal out of ABC on a TV show.
NBC, but
I don't think he actually wanted to be president with NBC. Sorry.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
But it doesn't really matter. But my point is like, hey, it's kind of a fully fueled 747 with the keys in the ignition. Anybody can say, no, I want to be the Republican nominee. And if you have enough, again, eyeballs of people who know you are, name recognition, you can become the fucking president really easily.
Well, it's not really easy. But I think I actually disagree with you here, because the thing is,
I mean, you become the New York City mayor. I mean, some, kid who has no experience except for being a city councilor for a term.
Yeah,
and he's almost going to be New York City mayor. He's odds-on favorite to be.
Probably will be. I'm just saying the difference with Trump, and who knows whether he actually. I mean, I think he did want to win because they were legitimately threatening. They were legitimately talking about ways, just like they did to Bernie. They were going to put all the stops to try to shut him out. And he's like, you don't understand. I'm going to get my followers to like burn this mother down. Like, we'll go independent. We'll do whatever. Like, it's not happening. Right. And that's what happened. And then, some of the powers to be tried to like, bring that, was it Evan McCullough? What was the guy's name? The guy in Utah and stuff like that. They still tried to screw him. You know what I mean? They tried to run other Republican candidates against him.
McMullen.
Yeah. The Utah guy.
Yeah.
They still tried to screw him even after he got the nomination. They're like, we can't let this guy win. We're going to do this, this, and that. So he was like one of the few, I think, who was a big enough name to be able to push through the bureaucratic bullshit to actually pull it off. And even Bernie, and maybe you'll just say it's because Bernie wasn't a fighter like Trump. I think that might actually be the reason. Like, Trump would have not allowed it to have happened to him what Bernie did. Bernie just kind of went along with it at the end of the day. Yeah, but
doesn't it show like how little power the establishment and the money interests have, that Cuomo, a former governor whose father was a former governor, is a 16% chance to win against a nobody city councilor who's good on TikTok, but really doesn't have any name recognition prior to this year. That guy's the odds-on favorite to win.
Well, it's all because the Democratic primary process, right? It's because like, they're so out of touch with their base, right? Like, they're all the candidates up there. They're like, oh, where would you visit? It's all about Israel and stuff like that. And nobody in the Democratic that cares about their living situation. This guy's talking about halal food trucks, and everyone's like, yeah, I want my food truck to be cheaper. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's easy to kind of pass it off of these things, but like, I think he was just hitting the issues people cared about. And Cuomo, despite being an establishment guy, nobody wanted these old establishment guys. He had a horrible record on COVID. He had the sexual scandals, which is really bad, the Democratic primary stuff as well. Like, it's just, they just thought they could push him through. That was the whole mistake. They just underestimated how unfavorable the situation was. And they got screwed. Now they have to deal with Madami, and they're going to try to, make it not happen, but he might just get it through. Probably will.
Odds
on favorite.
Odds on favorite.
PolyMarks tells me 80% chance.
And they've been right before.
They're right on every. I mean, that's the crazy thing. You go back and look at the elections.
Yeah.
They not only nailed the election, they nailed every single state and stuff like that on the last presidential election. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, how do you measure that though, right? Because it's like, what does that just mean that they were the first to call it right?
No, it just
When the
means that
tides
every
turn,
single like
but I
well,
mean, if a
just
bet
like
goes
every
like
single
this, right, and it goes up and down, and then resolves to a yes or a no, it's like, how can you say, oh, well, we're accurate on that because the odds were fluctuating so much over time?
No, yeah, that's fair, Joel. I just think it's like the day before the election, every single state they had as a favorite settled the way they had. So they were right about every single state as far as who would win it.
Yeah, probably
Ahead of time.
before
Ahead
anyone
of
else
time, right?
called
So like
it.
a
Right?
day
Yeah.
before. So like you
Yes,
really didn't
exactly.
have to do like the election. Like someone made a joke about it. It's like, oh, Elon Musk, he must have some secret data that he knew exactly what was happening. It's like, no, I think he just had the PolyMarket up and it said like Trump's a 95% favorite or 99% favorite to win, you know what I mean? In the middle of the night. And he's like, all right,
Well,
this is over.
they rated some of the PolyMarket like ownership around the election, or maybe it was, I don't know if it was the PolyMarket ownership, but they rated them being like, how did you get this advance notice? And then it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just the markets. Like, I'm not over here doing anything suspicious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one of the other bets that I took, I think Andrew might have got in on here this as well, was, we had talked about this, I think, previously in some of our other podcasts, but I don't think anyone took any action on it. It's which countries will recognize Palestine in 2025. And yeah, the odds on France recognizing Palestine had sort of skyrocketed over time. I think it was as much as 92% when I ended up buying in. But my feeling, at least why I was interested in this market, is, just, and again, I don't know much about France's politics, but it seems like the reporting coming in is that, shit's hitting the fan essentially, and that their government is dissolving. And so my feeling was at, an 8% buy-in that, France might not get their shit together this year enough to pass any resolutions or make any official declarations about Palestine. What were your guys' thoughts?
So you bought the no.
Yeah, I bought the no on France recognizing Palestine officially because it was only 8 cents. And again, I'm just like, well, if they can't get their shit together in the government to make any official proclamations because they're too busy trying to, fix whatever's going on with
No, I like that. I
Moroni
like that bet. I think that I might actually it's at 11 cents now, but I might try to get in on a little bit of that, especially if you assume that there's probably some negotiations happening behind the scenes as far as, the next prime minister or whatever.
What is happening? I mean, I assume, Andrew, you know more about this than me. I don't actually know what's happening. I just heard on the All In pod they were saying that over lunch France was collapsing, but I didn't actually look into it.
I mean, I think that whenever it was, 3 weeks ago, 3 episodes ago, where we were talking about this, I mean, it sure seemed to me like political coordination on behalf of the UK, France, and Canada, that all 3 of those leaders said in the same week, we're going to recognize Palestine. I thought it was a threat. I thought it was a bit of a desperate threat on their part to say, hey, our constituency is really up in arms about Gaza and the situation there. So this is the last thing that those 3 countries had in like the sort of the last arrow in their quiver to try and exert some political pressure on Israel and Netanyahu to get to a ceasefire. And I thought it was going to tell. And I thought that, and I still think, I mean, I still have those bets. They're all losers right now. But I still think that this is going to result in a ceasefire. There's been a lot of reporting coming out of Israel the last couple of weeks that the chief of the IDF and the head of the Mossad are against Netanyahu's plan to reinvade Gaza. And I think this might get done in terms of a ceasefire. Now, that was after Qatar got bombed and the Hamas leadership got taken out today. I'm not sure how that's going to affect things, but up until that moment, I certainly felt like there was a good chance that the situation was going to resolve itself to a ceasefire, and that Canada, France, and the UK wouldn't have to recognize Palestine, because that was their threat, right? Is it said, unless there's a ceasefire, then we're going to do it in September. Well, September's a third over now, and there's no ceasefire, but none of these countries have recognized Palestine either. And
what's the process? Like, what's the process for Canada to, like, for example, to be like, we consider them a country now? I don't get it. If they just announce it,
I mean, I don't think it's anything more than
an official declaration,
like whatever, an order of the Prime Minister's office to just be like, okay, instead of having a Palestinian Authority consulate, now they have a Palestine embassy. I mean, it'd be the same building. They would just change the plate on the outside of it. I don't think anything on the ground would change, but it is a monumental change in policy for those three countries, overturning decades of how they viewed the Palestinian territories, you want to say?
Yeah. I mean, they've been permanent refugees for 60 years. This would be changing the status, essentially, right?
Yeah, but you're recognizing a country that's never been a country, and has never had like a unified government or any other of the mechanisms that you would be like, okay, well, they are a functioning country.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Yeah. They don't have those. They don't have.
Right. So I think Joel's right, which is why I took the bet that I think this was a bit of a bluff on the parts of those three leaders. And since making that announcement in France, they've also stopped Palestinian refugees from coming into France, if I remember correctly. And I think all three leaders heavily criticized Hamas in this past week after a couple of gunmen got on a bus in Jerusalem and shot up a bunch of Israelis.
Well, Starmer came out today in strong opposition to the strikes on the Hamas leaders in Qatar.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
They're still whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, obviously going on both sides. Okay, I mean, I'm with Joel. I bought the bet, the no on Palestine in 2025 for France, if nothing else, because I mean, I think it's a good odds, especially when you consider the leadership's changing, and who knows if this gets figured out. Where I wouldn't buy it on UK or Canada, where you think things are gonna stay the same, and it could definitely happen. So.
Yeah, apparently I bought it at 12 cents, so maybe not as much of a return as I was hoping. But hey,
we're okay. So let's do a quick. Let's wrap it up on this. Let's do a quick update. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say, when I take a look at my PMP map portfolio, I am down $68 all time of my $1,000 portfolio. Where's everybody else at? Where are we at right now?
Well, this is embarrassing. I'm down $170.
Okay, and out of what?
Out of the 500.
Oh, so even bigger percentage. Okay.
Yeah, much bigger percentage.
Andres, are you a winner now, Andres? Is that the update? You turned winner for a second?
For a second, for a hot minute, like whenever it was yesterday, I was up $75, and now I'm down. Yeah, down $25, $30.
Okay, well, that's what we're saying, guys.
The Venezuela bet.
You only realize the loss if you sell now.
Listen,
when these things
come
happen,
listen to our podcast,
skyrocket.
guys, where the experts show you how to win every week.
We're not just here to shit talk with our brothers.
This is not
legitimate
to debate
financial
conspiracy
advice.
theories before the podcast start. No, this is good. We're helping people out. No, I think we should talk maybe next week a little bit more about. I've been recently trying to follow some of the whale movement, and it's interesting because some of the whale movement, maybe we can get us more some other time. Like I said, But a lot of the biggest polymarket whales are like the nothing happens bets, they call them. Like this guy's basically just betting like all these 80 or 90% shots for big amount of money, but he's making like, you know, $1 million a year on nothing happening. Now, of course, if some of those go wrong, he can get screwed, but it's maybe we should somewhat revamp and think about what are the bets that we think are guaranteed at 80%, because that's another way to kind of make some money, as opposed to always being like, well, if this barely
10%,
if this thing that barely happens, I'm going to be rich. And then like, shit, didn't happen again.
you know what's funny? I rolled into Nothing Happens Twitter today, where, you know, I some tweet, maybe it was one of the ones that you guys had sent me. You know, all the comments are like, nothing happens. Hold, boys, nothing's gonna happen. You know, like, I'm like, okay, all right. I found the fun part of Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I think you take a step back and you do realize we do the talk about lots of stuff, whether it's Venezuela or whether it's recognizing this or Fed doing that. You know, less happens than we speculate on. It's probably mostly true.
Yeah.
A lot of people shouting into the ether. And...
yeah, this great. Oh, guys, tomorrow it's going to change everything. A lot of like, everything's going to change. You know, the situation's going to go crazy. The situation, that situation doesn't happen.
My friend Joe, the insider who works at XAI, told me they're about to drop their browsers. So, you know, get in now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm doing this with any expectation of making money. Like, I hope I do.
Or I mean, obviously we're hoping to be profitable. I mean, that's the whole point, is we think we have bets that, I mean, we're doing it to make money, right? I mean, to have fun speculating on making money. Like, but yeah, I mean,
I'm here for the adrenaline of hitting one time and then losing 10 times, but still being addicted.
Hey.
I don't know. Matt, do you know anything about gambling addiction? Just kidding.
I think maybe I'm not the one that's had a gambling addiction or problem on this podcast, if you really want to get into it. Just kidding. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, I think it's time to wrap it up there, boys. Good pod.
Yeah, good pod, boys. You know, hopefully our markets will be up better here next week. If anyone is listening, you know, wants to suggest stuff to talk about, we would consider it, but still waiting.
PolyMarks box. PolyMarks box.